What if a child's voice could uncover a hidden crime? A young girl's bold claim shocks a courtroom. Don't miss the truth unfold. "I can read your mind," said the girl. The judge laughed, until she revealed his darkest secret. The courtroom buzzed with uneasy murmurs. At the center stood a little black girl, no more than 8 years old. Her hair, in loose braids, framed a dirt-smudged face. Her blue jacket hung loosely over her frail shoulders, the sleeves frayed at the edges. Her bare feet made no sound as she stepped closer to the towering figure of Judge Randall. The judge cleared his throat, gripping his gavel. "Who brought this child here?" "She asked for you," the bailiff said nervously. "Sir, she wouldn't speak to anyone else." Randall raised an eyebrow. "And why is that?" The little girl lifted her chin and locked her big brown eyes on him. "Because I can read your mind," she said softly. The courtroom fell silent. Then laughter echoed from the rows of spectators. The judge let out a sharp chuckle and leaned back in his leather chair. "You can read my mind? That's cute, little one, but this isn't a stage for childish games." But the girl didn't move, didn't flinch. "You don't believe me," she whispered. "Just like the others, until I tell you what you've been hiding all these years." The laughter stopped. The courtroom hummed with tension, its wooden benches filled with curious faces, as Amara stood alone, her dark skin marked by days on the street, her blue jacket swaying with each small step. Nervous? "I need to see him," she said, her voice low, her bare feet brushing the cold floor. The air grew heavy, the judge's high bench looming, her presence a ripple in the orderly room. Randall adjusted his robe, his gray hair catching the light, his hand tight on the gavel. Doubtful. "What's this about?" he asked, his tone sharp, the bailiff shifting uneasily nearby. The crowd leaned forward, their whispers rising, her frail figure a stark contrast to his authority, the moment teetering on something strange. Amara raised her head, her big brown eyes steady on the judge, her loose braids brushing her shoulders, her blue jacket hanging off her thin frame. "Calm. I can read your mind," she repeated, her voice soft but clear, the room falling into a hush. Laughter broke out, the spectators' voices overlapping, Randall's chuckle cutting through, his leather chair creaking as he leaned back. He waved a hand, his gray hair neat, his robe a symbol of power. Amused. "A child's trick," he said, his tone light, the crowd joining in. But Amara stood still, her dark skin calm, her bare feet planted, the air shifting as her words sank in, the mood turning from mockery to unease. 2 days before, Amara wandered the streets, her dark skin dusty from the road, her blue jacket torn at the sleeve, her bare feet silent on the pavement. "Quiet. Your wife knows," she told a man in a suit, her voice steady, his face paling as he hurried away. Shopkeepers froze, their stores quiet, her words hitting like whispers of truth. An officer knelt, his uniform crisp, his face kind. "Gentle. Where's your home?" he asked, his tone soft, Amara's big brown eyes blinking slowly. "Sad. Gone," she said, the streetlights flickering, her presence unsettling, the past echoing in the secret she shared, drawing the law's attention. Back in court, Amara stepped closer, her dark skin steady, her blue jacket swaying, her bare feet leaving faint marks on the floor. "Firm. You've hidden it," she said, her voice low, her big brown eyes piercing Randall's. His smirk faded, his gray hair damp with sweat, the gavel trembling in his grip, the room holding its breath. He leaned forward, his robe rustling, his face tight. Defensive. "You're making this up," he snapped, the crowd's whispers growing, the bailiff stepping near. Amara's hand rose, her frail arm shaking, her words a challenge, the tension building, the judge's secret hovering on the edge of exposure. 2 days earlier, Amara had been found wandering the streets barefoot and alone, muttering things that sent grown men running. "Your wife knows what you did last summer," she said to one man in a suit. "You stole money from your best friend's wallet," she muttered to a shopkeeper. "You're planning to run away with her sister," she told another, her voice eerily calm. Each time, their faces turned pale. One man screamed, "How do you know that?" before shoving her away and sprinting off. Police were called. "Where's your family?" an officer asked gently. Amara's voice was barely a whisper. "They're gone." "And how do you know all these things?" The girl's big eyes blinked slowly. "I can see them in people's minds. I feel their secrets." "She's delusional," one cop muttered. But when Amara turned to him and said, "You're still wearing her perfume, aren't you? The woman you see every Thursday." The officer's face went pale. "This kid is unnatural," his partner said. "What do we do with her?" "She keeps asking for Judge Randall," said another. "Let's take her to the courthouse. Maybe he'll know what to do." Now, standing in the center of the courtroom, Amara took another step closer. "You've hidden it for years," she said softly, her voice steady. "The thing you did. The one that still makes you wake up at night in sweat." Randall's smirk faltered for just a second. "You're lying," he said sharply. "You're just a scared little girl trying to get attention." Amara raised her small hand and gently placed it on the crown of his head. That night, Randall sat in his dim office, his robe tossed aside, his gray hair messy from running his hands through it, the weight of Amara's words pressing on him. "Uneasy. It can't be real," he muttered, his voice low, a faded photo of a young woman on his desk stirring a buried memory. Her smile haunted him, the riverbank flashing in his mind, his heart racing with old guilt. He paced, his shoes scuffing the floor, the leather chair empty behind him. Troubled. "She's just a child," he whispered, his tone shaky, the clock ticking loudly, Amara's big brown eyes lingering in his thoughts, a memory stirring from the depths, pulling at his control. In the courtroom, Amara's small hand rested on Randall's head, her dark skin steady against his gray hair, her blue jacket brushing his robe. "Calm." "You pushed her," she said, her voice soft, the room holding its breath as her words uncovered a hidden truth. His face paled, his grip on the gavel loosening, the secret surfacing like a shadow. The crowd leaned in, their murmurs rising, a lawyer's voice cutting through. "Shocked." "What's she saying?" he asked, his tone sharp, the bailiff stepping closer. Randall's breath quickened, his eyes darting, the buried act of burying Claire near the river breaking free, the air thick with revelation. Randall pulled back, his robe rustling, his gray hair damp with sweat, his hand trembling as he pointed at Amara. Defensive. "She's lying," he shouted, his voice cracking, the gavel slamming down hard. The crowd gasped, their whispers swelling, doubt creeping into their stares, his authority wavering under her quiet gaze. The bailiff moved forward, his uniform stiff, his face uncertain. Hesitant. "Should we stop her?" he asked, his tone low, the officers exchanging looks. Amara stood firm, her dark skin calm, her bare feet grounded, doubt growing in the room, the judge's past threatening to unravel, the tension building. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. "Don't touch the judge," a lawyer hissed. But Amara didn't move her hand. Her eyes fluttered shut, as if she were listening to something deep inside him. "You didn't mean to do it, did you?" she whispered. The judge's heart began to race. "You pushed her. You didn't think the fall would kill her, but it did." Randall's face turned ashen. The room grew eerily quiet. "You buried her near the river," Amara murmured. "You thought no one would ever find out. You became a lawyer, then a judge, and told yourself you'd been forgiven." Randall shot out of his chair. "Enough!" he roared, slamming his gavel so hard it cracked. "This is nonsense. She's making it up." But the girl didn't flinch. "Then why are you shaking?" she asked softly, her hand still on his head. The crowd erupted in whispers. "Is it true? What is she talking about?" Randall's breaths came faster. His eyes darted to the bailiff. "Take her away, now." But Amara spoke again, her voice louder this time. "You see her every night in your dreams. The woman you buried. The one screaming in your mind even now. The courtroom grew still, the wooden benches creaking as people leaned in, Amara's dark skin calm under the pressure, her small hand firm on Randall's head. "Steady! You can't hide it," she said, her voice low, her blue jacket shifting slightly. Randall's gray hair trembled, his face red with anger, his robe tight as he glared down. Angry. "Get off me!" he shouted, his tone harsh, the tension thickening, the air heavy with his resistance. The bailiff stepped closer, his uniform stiff, his face unsure. Nervous. "Sir, what do we do?" he asked, his voice quiet, the crowd's murmurs rising. Amara's big brown eyes stayed locked on Randall, her bare feet grounded, the confrontation deepening, his control slipping with each word she spoke. Amara's voice rose, her dark skin steady, her blue jacket hanging loose as she pressed harder. "Clear!" "You buried her with rocks," she said, her tone firm, the room gasping as the truth spilled out. Randall's hand shook, his gray hair damp, his gavel forgotten on the bench, the past unraveling like a torn thread, his pale face draining of color. A woman in the back stood, her voice cutting through. Shocked. "Who was she?" she called, her tone sharp, the crowd turning to Randall. His breath hitched, his robe rustling as he backed away, the secret of Claire's bracelet surfacing, the truths tearing at his carefully built life, the silence deafening. The room buzzed with unrest, the benches shaking with movement, Amara's dark skin glowing with resolve, her small hand still on Randall's head. "Bold. You kept her bracelet," she said, her voice loud, the crowd erupting in shock. Randall's gray hair stuck to his forehead, his face flushed, his robe flapping as he stumbled. Panicked. "Stop her!" he yelled, his tone breaking, the tension rising like a storm. Lawyers shouted, their voices overlapping, the bailiff hesitating near the bench. Confused. "What's happening?" one muttered, his tone lost, the reporters scrambling forward. Amara stood tall, her blue jacket swaying, her bare feet firm, the pressure building, Randall's secret teetering on the edge of collapse, the courtroom a battlefield of truth. Randall staggered backward, his face pale as chalk. "How could you know that?" he whispered hoarsely. Amara opened her eyes and stared straight into his. "Because she's still screaming," the girl said. "And I can hear her." The courtroom erupted into chaos. Reporters scrambled for their cameras. Lawyers shouted over one another. The judge's gavel slammed repeatedly, but the sound barely cut through the growing storm of voices. "Order!" Randall bellowed, his voice cracking. "Order in this court." But his hands were trembling. Amara stood still, her small hand pressed lightly to his head. "You hear her too, don't you?" she whispered, her voice eerily calm. Her voice. Her cries. The way she begged you to stop. "Lies!" Randall roared, his face flushed red as sweat dripped down his temple. "This child is manipulating you all. I've never hurt anyone." Amara tilted her head, her braids brushing her shoulders. "Then why can I see her?" The judge froze. "You buried her near the riverbank," Amara continued, her eyes narrowing. "You thought the current would take her body, but the soil was thick. You covered her with rocks." Randall's legs wobbled. He gripped the edge of his bench, his knuckles white. "Stop," he hissed. "You kept her bracelet," Amara said, louder now, her voice carrying over the gasps of the crowd. "You put it in a box. It's still under the floorboards in your study, isn't it?" Randall's head jerked up. No one could know about the bracelet. No one. The room fell deadly silent. The silence shattered, the courtroom benches shaking as Amara's voice cut through, her dark skin firm, her blue jacket swaying as she spoke. "Strong." Her name was Claire, she said, her tone clear, the crowd gasping as the revelation hit. Randall's gray hair clung to his face, his robe crumpled, his hands slipping from the bench, the truth breaking like a wave, his secret laid bare. A young man stood, his eyes wet, his voice breaking. Angry. "She was my sister," he shouted, the room turning to him, the weight of Claire's loss hitting hard. Randall stumbled, his face pale, the bracelet's image haunting him, the revelation splitting the air, the tension peaking. The chaos slowed, a woman stepping forward, her dark skin steady, her voice rising above the noise. "Firm, we believe her," she said, her tone sure, others nodding in agreement, the crowd shifting to Amara's side. The bailiff hesitated, his uniform stiff, his face softening, the support growing like a quiet tide, the room finding strength. An officer moved closer, his badge glinting, his voice low. Determined. "We'll check it out," he said, his tone steady, the young man joining him, their resolve clear. Amara's big brown eyes watched, her blue jacket still, her bare feet grounded, the support emerging, the courtroom uniting against the judge's lies. A woman in the back row stood. "What is she talking about? What bracelet?" Amara's voice grew sharper. "The one he ripped off her wrist when she scratched his face." The crowd erupted into frantic murmurs. "I want her removed now." Randall screamed, his voice breaking. "This is slander. This is—" "She told me her name," Amara said, cutting through his tirade like a blade. "Her name was Claire. She was 24. And you promised to drive her home that night." Randall's mouth fell open. "She trusted you," Amara said softly. "But when she said no, you lost control. You pushed her. And when she stopped breathing, you panicked. You thought no one would ever find out." Suddenly, Amara gasped and staggered back, clutching her head. "She's screaming again," the girl cried. Her voice, it's louder now. "She says she won't stop until the truth comes out." The judge backed into his chair, his hands trembling violently. I didn't mean to," he choked out. "I didn't mean to hurt her. It was an accident." The room went silent. Every eye in the courtroom turned to Randall as he fell to his knees. "Claire was my sister," a young man in the audience shouted, tears streaming down his face. "You told us she ran away. You monster." Reporters shoved forward with microphones. Lawyers scrambled to hold them back. Amara slowly lowered her hand. "Her voice is gone now," she said quietly. "She says she can rest." Within minutes, officers surrounded the judge. "You're under arrest for the murder of Claire Donovan," one of them announced. Randall's face crumpled. "I didn't mean to," he cried as they dragged him from the bench. "It was supposed to be a secret. No one was supposed to know." Amara's eyes followed him coldly as he passed. "She always knew," the little girl whispered. "She just needed someone to listen." As the gavel fell for the last time, Amara stepped down from the stand. A reporter approached cautiously. How did you know all that?" Amara's lips curved faintly. "I don't just hear thoughts," she said softly. "I hear the voices of the ones you've tried to silence." And with that, she walked barefoot out of the courtroom, leaving stunned silence in her wake. The courtroom quieted, the wooden benches still as officers led Randall away, his gray hair disheveled, his robe dragging on the floor, his cries fading. "Firm." "It's over," an officer said, his voice steady, the young man's tears drying as he nodded, the crowd watching with relief. Amara's dark skin stood out, her blue jacket steady, justice prevailing like a heavy weight lifted, the room breathing easier. The bailiff lowered his head, his uniform loose, his face calm. "Accepting." "He's gone," he murmured, his tone soft, the gavel lying broken on the bench, the law taking hold. The air cleared, the young man's pain turning to closure, the morning light filtering in, the truth setting things right at last. Amara walked toward the door, her dark skin calm, her blue jacket swaying with each step, her bare feet leaving faint prints on the floor. "Proud." "I helped her," she said, her voice clear, her big brown eyes bright with purpose, the crowd parting in awe. The reporter stepped back, his notebook trembling, her strength shining through her small frame, a quiet power filling the space. She paused, her braids brushing her shoulders, her presence steady. "Wise." They need to be heard, she whispered, her tone gentle, the courtroom watching in silence, the young man wiping his eyes with gratitude. The morning sun warmed her path, her courage a beacon, her spirit lifting the room, a child's resolve changing everything. The noise faded, the benches emptying as people filed out, Amara's dark skin blending into the light outside, her blue jacket a distant shape. Peaceful. It's done, a lawyer said, his voice low, the courtroom growing still, the broken gavel a silent witness. The young man sat alone, his face soft, the silence settling like a gentle cover, the air clean with resolution. The door closed behind Amara, her bare feet gone from sight, the reporter staring after her. Reflective. She's something else, he muttered, his tone quiet, the room empty now, the echoes of truth lingering. The sunlight streamed in, the silence deep and final, a story of justice and strength etched into the stillness, the day moving on. What a stunning twist! Did this story move you? Hit the like button, join our family with a subscribe, and share your thoughts below. We're eager to hear.